Good morning or good afternoon. Thanks for inviting me into your home today. My name is Linda Folster. I'm a career advisor with Career Services on the BC campus. And today I'm going to be presenting a webinar on the topic of writing a resume when you lack experience. If you'll give me just a moment, I will share my screen with you to show you some slides. So first, here's a bit about my background. I'm a career advisor at the BC campus, as I mentioned to you, and I'm new to our team. I started on September 1st. I bring 12 years of experience advising almost 1,000 clients in career transition, primarily in the nonprofit sector, although I did have a couple of short-term contracts in the post-secondary environment. I'm certified to administer and interpret a number of career assessments, and I am also a certified career development practitioner, in addition to holding a master's degree in adult education. And as a former entrepreneur myself, I have also worked as a business advisor with entrepreneurs at the startup stage. I did that work for about 6 years. I've been through many life transitions myself, and I've come out the other side. And I want you to know that I understand the roller coaster that you might be going through and how important your career goals are. And I'm looking forward to working with you to help you on this. Before diving in, I just want to take a moment to talk about the context that we find ourselves in and how this relates to your personal situation. It's hard to get your first job when you're a new grad or a career changer, and the competitive landscape with high unemployment during the pandemic has made this feel more true now than ever. But people are getting jobs. I was recently in this situation myself, and I landed this amazing job during COVID. And over the years, I've supported several hundred people to successfully break through this challenge too. I want you to imagine for a moment what it would feel like if you were so clear about what you have to offer an employer that you stopped feeling confused and daunted and insecure about how to compete when you lack experience. The high unemployment during the pandemic has made our labor market very competitive. But as I said, people are getting jobs, and you can be one of them. I'm about to give you some very valuable information about what employers are looking for when they review resumes. Then I'll explain to you how, based on knowing this, you can dig into your life history to identify where you match with what they're looking for. And I'll also be showing you how to present yourself on paper so that you can start getting yourself into the yes pile. Just in case you weren't aware of the importance of a laser-targeted, high-quality resume, this quote puts it into perspective. Employers spend an average of 5 to 7 seconds the first time they look at your resume. Think about that for a moment. On average, employers get approximately 140 applicants when they post a job, likely even more during times of high unemployment like now. That means that you have about 5 seconds to make it into one of 3 piles: yes, no, or maybe. And if you don't make it into the yes pile, but you make it into the maybe pile, you have about 20 seconds on the second look to move from the maybe to the yes pile. This webinar is going to show you how to maximize your chances of making it into one of these 2 piles, and hopefully the yes pile instead of the maybe pile, even though you might not have direct work experience in your field. The idea for this workshop came from my observation that many, if not most, of our students face this dilemma that's common to youth and new grads and career changers. And I once went through it too. And that is, how do you get experience if you need experience to get a job, but yet you're just starting out? I want you to think about your reasons for wanting to pursue your degree and ultimately a career in this field. Likely, it had something to do with your natural interest in this area, which may have developed during a particular part of your life or an event in your life. and it may have grown over time and prompted you to get your degree. And that interest of yours is a good starting point to start to unpack experiences in your life up until now that led you down this path. Because embedded within these experiences are natural gifts that you developed into skills. And you can actually unpack these experiences to discover what you have to offer employers that would be of value to them. Because at the end of the day, at every step in your job search process, your task is to prove to employers the only thing that matters to them, which is, how can you be of value to me? So here's what we'll cover in the webinar. I'll explain the 3 traditional resume styles, along with explanations of when to use which style. And to make it easier, this is going to include a checklist for each style. I'll also share with you 2 case studies to bring to life the material that I'm presenting today. When I'm presenting these case studies, I encourage you to put yourself in the employer's shoes to get a sense of how they might react to seeing the applicant's resumes in light of the job that they need to fill. Because the more that you can put yourself in the employer's shoes, the better. It will help you to understand how they make decisions about who goes into these yes, no, and maybe piles. On that note, we're going to be examining a few job descriptions in order to look for clues about what employers are looking for. And your job is to study those job ads and job descriptions deeply so that you can determine what you have to offer that matches what they're looking for, and then you write about that in your resume. This is what we're talking about when we refer to a targeted resume. I'll focus on 2 specific resume styles that are appropriate to new grads and career changers, the functional style and the combination style. And I'll explain to you what the differences are between them and when to use which one depending on your circumstances. If you take a look at the outcomes on the slide, you'll see that the final point is learning to prove your skills. There are a ton of cliches in most resumes. You see a lot of claims like, I'm a good team player, I have excellent communication skills. And in reality, these end up coming across as empty claims, and so they don't make much of an impact. There's a better way to write this in a style that brings your skills to life through storytelling and citing metrics, in other words, numbers. This makes you stand out from the competition, and finding multiple ways to stand out is what gets the employer's attention. This quote by Richie Norton is very relevant to our topic. When it comes to getting a job or a client, congruent value is aligning the employer's need with your value add. In other words, there must be a match between what employers want and what you offer. That's congruency, and you're going to learn about how to achieve this. The first resume style is the one that most people are familiar with, and in fact, many people are not aware that there are even other styles that you can use, and that's the chronological style. This style has the usual headings such as objective, profile, education, and work experience, and sometimes it can include other optional headings such as volunteer work or hobbies. The focus of this style is on work experience, where each of your jobs, both current and previous, are listed in reverse chronological order. In other words, starting with your most recent job and working backwards in time to show past jobs. The column in the center of this slide shows criteria for when this is an appropriate choice for your situation. So as I go through this list, check off in your head which points apply to you, if any. This gives some clues about which resume style is the right fit for you. So here are some situations where this one would be a fit. When you have many years of experience in a particular career that you're targeting now, especially when you can show progression, you've worked in one specific industry for different employers. In other words, there's a pattern that an employer can make sense of. And your work history is consistent with little to no gaps. Next, let's see a snapshot of what this would look like. So here's a screenshot of the work experience section of an accounting assistant using a chronological style. As you can see, she's listed her employers, her position titles, her employment dates, and her job duties. We can see that her experience is in one particular field, and that would be accounting, and that her work history shows progression. And this is pretty standard stuff for a chronological resume. The next style is called a functional resume, also known as a skills-based resume. Although the headings in this resume are similar to the chronological style, the difference between this style and the chronological one is that this one focuses on your relevant skills as opposed to your work experience. Keep in mind that the skills you decide to feature must be ones that the employer is actually looking for. That's what we mean by a targeted resume. For example, it may be great that you have excellent computer skills, but if you're going for a counseling job, that's not going to get an employer's attention. They'd want to see that you're skilled at building relationships, that you have empathy, you're a good listener, and so on. So it's not that you don't include your work history. Of course you do, but the work history section in a functional style resume consists of a simple listing of your positions held and employers and employment dates without any of the detail. So let's take a look at the criteria that make this style a good choice in the second column on the slide. Again, as I go through this list, mentally check off which points apply to you. You have little to no experience in your field. Maybe you have work experience, but not in this career. Although you lack experience, you have the skills required to do the job, and you've used those skills in other areas of your life. Perhaps you have some gaps in your work history or have changed jobs frequently, either of which can be a red flag to employers, and you want to downplay that. So let me show you a snapshot of what this looks like. Here's a screenshot of the skills section of a functional resume. This is someone who is transitioning to a dog trainer position. I'll show you a more detailed version during the case study segment. As you can see, she lists her relevant skills by grouping them into meaningful headings such as animal care and training and dog handling skills and physical fitness and hardiness. And within each skill grouping, she describes stories that act as proofs of these skills. So if we look under the animal care, training, and dog handling skills, here's a story. By age 11, I undertook the training of 2 horses on our hobby farm by researching and applying techniques and consulting with a 4-H expert, resulting in the horses being fully trained within 1 year and winning ribbons in horse shows I entered. Under physical fitness and hardiness, she tells this little vignette. Born and raised on a hobby farm in Winnipeg, spending most of my youth outdoors in harsh weather, built and slept in igloos. Remember, this is someone who is changing careers and has no direct experience. The final style is called a combination resume, also known as a hybrid resume. This is probably the least common style, and just as the name suggests, it's a combination of the chronological and functional styles. Like the functional resume, the focus is on relevant skills, but the difference is that these are featured under each of your previous jobs as opposed to being described at a detailed level within a section called skills. In other words, you would feature a fully developed work history section as opposed to a mere listing of your previous jobs as per the functional style. And then within each job listing, you would focus on the skills you use that are relevant to the job that you're going for, as opposed to describing the particular duties of each job. I'll show you an example of a combination resume shortly. First, let's go through the checklist in the center column, and as I read these out, make a note of the criteria that apply to you. This would be a good style to choose if you're in the early stages of your career with anywhere from 1 to 3 years of relevant experience, which is considered minimal for most jobs. And maybe you've had that experience with just a few employers, and yet you have a solid track record. Perhaps you've graduated or are nearing graduation, but you haven't had many jobs, period. And this is a good choice for someone who is changing careers or else staying in their current career but changing industries. So for example, I switched from the nonprofit sector to the post-secondary sector, and they are totally different worlds. I used a combination style resume, and obviously it worked very well for me. This style works well if you have no gaps in your work history. Because you'd be featuring your jobs in reverse chronological order and filling out content within each job in detail, if you have gaps, these would be more noticeable in a combination style resume. So if you have gaps, you might want to choose a functional style. Based on these checklists, hopefully you now have an idea which resume style to use for your situation. So here's a screenshot of how the skills are highlighted in the work experience section of a combination resume for someone who is transitioning from a marketing professional to a recruiter position. These two professions require many of the same skills. Notice how the skills listed in the top section of the resume are featured under the jobs listed in the work experience section. So each job is listed in reverse chronological order, and within each of the jobs is at least one accomplishment statement. And highlighted in bold are the skills that are featured in the summary above. So let's take an example that can be easily understood by a wide audience. That's the dog trainer job. The first step in developing a resume is to make sure that you understand the job you're going after. In this case, researching this was as easy as entering dog trainer description or dog trainer job posting in my Google search bar. And as you can see on the slide here, here is a summary of what I found in terms of the education, the experience, soft skills, and the hard skills that are needed. So let's say that I'm an employer and I post a job for a dog trainer. Among the applicants is Samantha Marshall. I'll tell you a bit about her background. Samantha has 4 years entry-level accounting administrative experience and has decided to pursue a career change as a dog trainer, so she got her certification. Let me show you the first page of Samantha's resume. As you can see, she's listed her jobs in reverse chronological order, and the focus is on her work experience. She's chosen a chronological style resume. You can see that highlighted in yellow in a couple of different places is reference to her certification as a dog trainer. But if we look at her work history, it gives the impression that she's best suited to a role in the accounting field, even though she has listed her certification as a dog trainer. You can see that she's held positions as an accounting assistant and an administrative and accounting assistance clerk, and that she has some certification that is completed and ongoing in the field of accounting. So if you were an employer and spent 5 seconds scanning this resume, it would definitely end up in the no pile. And I'm sure there are several of you who are in Samantha's situation where you have previous unrelated work experience, and the only relevant thing you think you have to offer is your soon-to-be completed degree. We see a lot of resumes like this in career services. So a chronological resume does not do a very good job of selling Samantha. A functional resume would be far more effective. And let me show you just how much of a difference this can make. I'd like to now introduce you to Janan Abadi, our first case study. Here are a few details of Janan's career situation. She is a career changer with no related work experience. Her work history includes having been a self-employed hairstylist for 11 years, and she's always had a passion for dogs and animals. She recently completed her certified dog trainer program, and she is searching for her first job in the dog care industry. So which resume style would suit her best for her situation. Here we're going to focus on the functional style. Let's explore the functional resume style in more depth. As you heard me say earlier, the focus of this style is on relevant skills. You saw in an earlier slide that I was able to easily gain an understanding of what skills employers are looking for a dog trainer by doing a simple Google search. Once a list of relevant skills that employers want is generated, the next step will be to figure out which of those skills you can realistically offer. And in the next slide, I'll show you some tips and tools on how to determine this. It can be difficult for people to put into words what their skills are, even though we may have a general sense of what we're good at. Once you've found the overlap between what the employer wants and what you bring to the table, you can group your relevant skills under meaningful headings. So for a dog trainer, this could include animal care and dog handling, communication and customer service, and problem solving, and there could be others as well. In order to avoid using cliche language that can be seen as empty claims, you can back up your skills by providing proofs, by writing the detail within your skills as accomplishment statements instead of job duties. And you're going to learn how to do this. Again, as a reminder, your work history section is de-emphasized, and it's merely included as a listing of positions held, employer names, and dates employed. Career Services has a sample and a template of a functional resume. We have some excellent resources available to you. So given that Janan is embarking on this new career without any formal related experience, how can she sell herself? Well, it's a process to do so, and it's entirely possible by following a set of steps. I'll walk you through step by step how to generate answers to some key questions. The first question is, how can Janan find out what skills employers are looking for? So the document that you see on this slide is from a job description we found on the internet, and the process she used was to go through it in detail and highlight in yellow all the requirements that match up with what she brings to the table. The highlighted words and terms are what she needs to mirror in her resume. The next question is, how can Janan articulate her relevant skills? And what I'm about to show you is very similar to the process Janan went through. These are screenshots from a document by a company called SkillScan. It takes you through various activities to help you to identify the skills that are strongest for you and that you most enjoy using as well. In other words, your list of motivated skills. And this document is also available from Career Services, and all you need to do is ask for it. So I'll explain this excerpt from the larger document just so that you can see how this works. So as you can see, the document includes a list of broad skill categories such as relationship skills, communication, management, leadership, creative, analytical, physical, and technical. And within each one of those broad categories are specific skills. So the task is to go through every single skill on this document and give yourself a rating on 2 levels. The first one is your proficiency. So in other words, how good at this particular skill do you think you are? So in other words, if you think you score high, you would give yourself a rating of 3. If you're moderately good at that skill, your rating would be 2, and a 1 would indicate a low skill level. And the second part that you rate yourself on is your enjoyment level. So how much do you enjoy using that skill? Because the truth is we can be good at something, but not necessarily enjoy using it. So for example, I learned to sew since I was 9 years old, and I'm really good at it, but I don't particularly enjoy it. So under the enjoyment level, you could rate yourself with a 4 if you enjoy the skill very much, 3 if you only moderately enjoy using the skill, and a 2 if you had a low level of enjoyment of that skill. So next you multiply for each one of these specific skills your proficiency level by your enjoyment level to get a total score. And then for each broadly categorized skill, you add up all of these numbers here to get a category score. And what you can summarize is your specific skills that have the highest scores, the second highest scores, the third, and the fourth. The next question is, how can Janan transform her skills into accomplishment statements? There's a link to this article, which is called Resume Revamp, How to Turn Your Duties into Accomplishments. So there's a link to this article in our resume resources, and it's a very, very good article that I highly recommend that you have a look at. So here are the key points from the article. The first one is you must know the difference between a duty and an accomplishment. So a duty describes what you did, and an accomplishment describes how well you did it. So for example, saying that you planned events would be considered a job duty, whereas specifying that you raised $100,000 by selling out tickets to a 200-person charity event is an accomplishment. And why is this so important? You want to tell the person reading your resume something that they don't already know. And for the most part, hiring managers understand what duties are associated with your job titles. The second point is to make a list. For each of your previous jobs or volunteer positions, ask yourself questions like this. What did I do that was above and beyond my normal duties? How did I stand out among other employees? Was I ever recognized by a supervisor for a job well done? When and why? Did I win any awards or accolades? What new processes did I implement to improve things? What problems did I solve? Did I ever consistently meet or exceed goals or quotas? Did I save the company money? What made me really great at my job? And if you have little to no experience, you can use examples from any area of your life. The next point is to paint the picture with numbers. Add as many facts, figures, and numbers as you can. By quantifying your accomplishments, you not only make them easier to understand, you really allow the hiring manager to picture the level of work or responsibility you needed to achieve this accomplishment. The final point is you add the benefit. So you take each statement one step further and you add in what the result was. This demonstrates not only what you're capable of, it also implies the direct benefit that the employer is going to receive by hiring you. And then you take all of this information, you write it up as a series of accomplishment statements, and you organize each one under the appropriate skill category in your resume. And the final question is, how can Janan prove her accomplishments via storytelling? So let me show you the process I took Janan through by interviewing her and mining her stories for relevance. The screenshots that you see on the right-hand side of the slide are taken from the skill scan document that I showed you earlier. So here's the process. First, in this blank box, you develop a list of enjoyable experiences or accomplishments that you can recall from any part of your life. And you give each one of these a title. Each activity or situation that you choose must meet all of the following criteria, which are listed right here. So the first one is, it must be an activity where you played an active role. So for example, saying, I developed a mentoring program for high school students would be correct because it's specific and gives us some insight into you, versus I like creating service programs is too general and it doesn't tell us much about you. The second criterion listed right here is that the activity or accomplishment must be something where you enjoyed the process of performing that activity, as well as the end result. And then the third criterion listed right here is that the activity has to have had value to you. So not necessarily to anyone else. In other words, it is something that you felt proud of. So you write the activities in this box. Remember that in order to make it into the blank box, the activities you choose must meet all of these 3 criteria, not just 1 or 2. Then, from the list of activities in step 1, you select the top 5 and you list them here in this table. The top 5 you select in terms of them being the most rewarding and the most enjoyable ones. The next step is to reflect on and write down the 3 most rewarding parts of each of these activities. So going through this exercise helps you to identify and describe stories from your life that demonstrate proofs of your skills in action. And you can then transform these stories into accomplishment statements for your resume. Plus, these will also be useful stories to tell in response to behavioral questions in job interviews. So this is well worth the effort to do this exercise. Let me show you what we came up with. Here's Janan's final resume. The yellow highlighted words and phrases were taken directly from the dog trainer job descriptions. So for example, passion for animals, certified professional dog trainer, love of dogs, knowledgeable about dog handling, patience, and so on and so forth. As you can see, Janan's resume is sprinkled with heartwarming and impressive stories that are very relevant to the position she applied for, despite her having no formal work experience. This is actually a true story, and Janan is a fictitious name for the real person who is a friend of mine. The process I outlined in the resume are real, and here's what happened. She applied for a job as a dog walker with a local company called the Pet Shop Club in Vancouver. It's a luxury boutique, it's a spa and a daycare service for dogs, and it also offers services like dog walking and training and boarding. And they were so impressed with her resume that they invited her for an interview the next day, and they offered her the job on the spot. Not only did they offer her the dog walker position, but they also hired her as a dog trainer, and they started sending dog boarding bookings to her. In fact, they sent her more referrals than she had time for, and she had to start turning work down. Remember, she didn't have any formal work experience doing this, only a certification. Imagine what would have happened if she created a chronological resume like Samantha Marshall did. Let's now look at another example, one that illustrates a combination style resume. This is the story of a young man who decided to transition from a few years as a marketing professional to a recruiter. Strategizing on how to market yourself for a job should always begin with research about what employers are looking for. So let me show you a document available online that provided some great direction for our next case study and confirmed that he was on the right track with deciding on this career change. This is the article we used as a starting point. It describes a variety of professions that marketing professionals can transition into, and recruiting was one of them. There were some excellent nuggets that we found that informed the resume development process. Just like in Janan's case, the first step was to go through the article and highlight the skills and experience needed for recruiters, ones that he could offer. So this allowed him to laser target his resume by focusing on his campaign management background, leadership abilities, project management experience, relationship skills, budgeting experience, and strategic planning skills. So I'd like to introduce you to Raymond Wong, our second case study. Here are a few details of Raymond's career situation. He's a career changer, going from a former profession in marketing to a recruitment consultant. He has 3 years of a combination of marketing and account management work experience. He has no gaps in his work history. He also has no recruitment experience, but as I said, recruitment is a common career change for marketing professionals. And he's searching for his first job as a recruitment consultant. So which resume style would do the best job of selling Raymond and why? So he could go with either a functional or a combination style, but one is better than the other for Raymond. A functional style is an option because his skills are very transferable. However, he has no gaps in his work history, and he has a few years of work experience in a field that's directly transferable to recruitment. So if it's possible for you to contextualize your skills through your work experience, this makes it easier for employers to visualize you in the role. In Raymond's case, this is definitely possible, so a combination resume would sell him better than a functional style. Let's review the combination style in more detail. Although this style still focuses on skills over work experience, it combines the functional and chronological types by bringing to life the skills within each job in the work experience section, and this is developed at a detailed level. The work experience section provides, or I should say, proves your skills by weaving in accomplishment statements that tell stories of your skills in action. And you can get a sample and a template for a combination style resume from Career Services, and I will show you Raymond's. So the process for Raymond to discover what skills employers are looking for and articulate his relevant skills and transform his skills into accomplishment statements are the same steps that our dog trainer Janan followed, so I won't click on these. The difference here is that Raymond can mine his work experience as a marketing professional for stories, because marketing is a field that's considered very transferable to recruitment, whereas Janan had to dig into personal life stories because her career as a self-employed hairdresser has no relevance to dog training. So let me show you Raymond's resume. So as you can see, it starts out with an objective statement, and that's followed by a summary of the skills that he offers that are relevant to a recruiter position. And the ones that I highlighted in yellow are the ones that we found specified in that article that I showed you earlier. And then each of his jobs is listed in reverse chronological order with the names of the positions, the employer, and the dates, just like a chronological resume. But instead of listing job duties, what are listed within each of these job entries is a minimum of one and sometimes more accomplishment statements. And as you can see, he has highlighted in bold the parts that speak to the specific skills that are summarized in the skills section. So one final announcement I want to share with you is that Career Services has created some very thorough documents and a tool to help you create a strong resume. In other words, a resume that sells you. And at the end of the session, I'm going to display our Career Services email address where you can write us to request the resources from this webinar so that you can inform yourself on the guidelines on resume development and get started on yours. So the documents that we have available include an instruction booklet, sample resumes in each of the 3 styles, and resume templates in each style. The instruction booklet features 3 resume styles, and in other words, a description of each of the styles, and also the checklist that I showed you for choosing what style best sells you. It also includes a description of the resume sections and what to include in each section. It also has a checklist of the characteristics of a good resume, and also a description of the importance of understanding online application systems and how they work to increase your chances of getting screened in. It also includes a great list of action verbs, because often when you're writing your resume, you end up feeling like you're repeating the same words all the time. And so this can help you make your writing style more interesting to read. And it also includes lists of and links to articles that describe a variety of types of skills, in addition to some words that you can use to describe your skills. And here are some visual samples of what you can expect to see in the other 2 documents. The document called Sample Resumes includes a sample of each of the 3 resume styles referred to in the instructions document. So in other words, chronological, functional, and combination resumes. And the image shown here on the left is the top half of a chronological style resume. By the way, these resumes are from real job seekers. The names and contact info and employer names have been disguised to protect their privacy. And the image on the right is a screenshot of a template for a functional resume. The document called Resume Templates is an editable Word document where you can overwrite the text with your own details. There are templates of chronological, functional, and combination resumes, and within each section are some detailed explanations of what you should write. And the templates are already formatted for you. So once again, Career Services can email you these documents upon request, plus the skills scan document that I showed you earlier, and we strongly encourage you to use them. There's so much to learn, and these are going to get you started on the right path to developing a resume that sells you. I want to conclude with this uplifting quote, which provides a new way of looking at the dilemma of needing experience and yet lacking experience. As a job seeker, remember this: you only lack experience if they want it done the same old way. So I guess it boils down to you asking yourself if you want to work for an employer who wants it done the same old way. As a final note, as promised, I am including our contact information here. Here's our email address. So I encourage you to reach out to us and request these resources that I have shown you in the webinar today. And I also wanted to let you know that one-on-one coaching on resume development is also available to you. So I want to thank you very much for joining me today, and I hope that you have found the information useful, and I look forward to working with you or one of my colleagues for that matter in the Career Services Department on developing a resume that sells you. Thanks everybody, and have a great day.